All right, guys, welcome back. So this is a service-based business. This is basically a rank and rent or maybe even a pay-per-lead site. I don't know yet. So this is a site that I created called Fix Your Basement, and it is basically obviously a basement remodeling and refinishing business. Um, the idea came from Home Advisor, where the average job value for these people is $20,000 to $30,000. You can go into a lot of detail about what's their profit margin to be able to figure out what you're going to charge them, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into that right now. Mark does a fantastic job of analyzing these details in advance so you know what niches you should be going after over in our local profit breakthrough members area. He's got a whole section on that. So I suggest you head over there, and check that out, because it's really going to help you figure out what you should be priced at for your leads or what you should charge for your sites, because you'll know more about the person's numbers sometimes than they know about their numbers. You need to know what their margins are. So it's not enough to say, well, these guys make $20,000 or $30,000 a job. Well, what's their overhead? What's their profit? What can they afford to invest? So that's a very important consideration. We're not going to get into that right now. All we're going to do is I want to show you the steps I go through for setting up a service-based business, and in this case for a pay-per-lead or rank and rent type of model. Site's already created. You can see I don't have any kind of actual phone number yet, but I'm going to need one to create a business or to create a listing. So I'm going to go over to CallFire, and you can use CallFire, ACT, Analytic Call Tracking, which is Joe Troyer's product. I suggest you pick that up if you are getting highly into rank and rent types of stuff. I'm just going to keep this simple for now and just go and pick up a number. So I'm in my CallFire account. All I'm going to want to do is go over here, and I want to search for Overland Park area codes. So it's area code 913. Another trick I like to use, because sometimes there's multiple area codes, is I will just type in Overland Park like this. And usually the first thing that's going to come up is a government listing. It's going to be the City of Overland Park, government page. Yep, City of Overland Park. So what I want to do is I want to see if there's multiple area codes. I want to see where the city government falls in within those area codes. Are they a 913 number? Are they something else? Obviously, in this case, it's all 913, but there's many times where there's 4 and 5 area codes. And this is sort of a trick that I learned where the government, the courthouse, all these things will tend to have the exact same area code. The police department, and guess where those are located? The center of town. And although it matters much less than it used to, it's very good to try to get something in the center of town if you can, just because that used to be part of Google's algorithm. It still is to some extent. Some people still tell me they see listings do better when they're near the center of town than not. It's much more geo-specific than that now, because everything is based on mobile phones. And so a lot of times your result is served up or not served up based on where that person is searching from their mobile phone, if that makes sense. But, for a service-based business and in general, it definitely can help to have something in the center of town. So I suggest you take that extra step if there's multiple area codes, and go with the area code that makes sense where the government is located. Government buildings are almost always center of town, downtown somewhere. So in this case, it's just 913. So all I'm going to do is search by area code inside of CallFire, and hit 9. So type in 913, and I'm going to hit search. And let's see here what I'm doing wrong. Enter a city or zip code for your search. Okay, we'll just enter a city. I don't know why. It usually doesn't ask us. Overland Park. Let's do that and see if it picks it up here. This is something a little new in Callfire. Usually just ask for an area code. It figures it out. They don't care. You're just picking up a phone number. They usually don't really care at all. So let's let this spin for a second. It's going to give me a choice of different phone numbers. I really don't care because we're just going to be forwarding it to whoever ends up either renting our site or buying leads from us. So I'm just going to pick the first one, and it's going to say purchase number. And I'm going to hit confirm purchase. Card processing error. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me just see what's going on here. I think maybe my card might have, no, it hasn't expired. I don't know what's going on. Give me 1 second. I just want to pick up this number so I can show you real quick. Okay, so I fixed that issue and I've purchased the phone number. So basically, we would just hit return to Callfire. It's going to show me a list of all my numbers. I don't want all my numbers being broadcast out. So I'm going to hit pause while I go and grab the actual phone number that I just purchased. So give me 1 second to get that. Okay, so I got my phone number that I just purchased from Callfire. The next thing we need to do is we're going to have to set up a brand new Google account. Gmail account, because we're going to be operating from that. Okay, so what I recommend is before you do that, clear everything, clear your history, cache, cookies, all that stuff. On Firefox, you just hit history, clear history, and you're going to do all this. Clear now. So give it 1 second to do this. Chrome and Internet Explorer obviously going to be a little bit different. No big deal. Just figure out how to clear everything. And if you're really ultra paranoid, which I know some people are, that's fine. You're going to want to take it a step further and either use a proxy, a VPN, something like that to set these up. I would only recommend that if you're setting up multiple locations all in one day. It's really not a big deal to just do this, to set it up with the method that I'm showing you. Not a big deal at all. Okay, so I need to create an account. And I'm going to hit pause while I do this, and I'll just show you kind of the end result so you don't have to sit here and watch me create an account. All right, I'm back. So I just created, I just used a fictitious name on this and set up a Gmail account, just matching exactly the name of my site, fixyourbasement@gmail.com. This can tie into later strategies of things I've taught you before if we need it, like setting up authoritative accounts on Blogger, YouTube. You know, I could have a YouTube channel, Fix Your Basement. I could have Blogger, Fix Your Basement at blogspot.com. And, you know, and we can take it even further than that when I show you the method that we use to create, you know, something like 20 different sites that are all interlinked with these profiles, you know, Fix Your Basement. It's a branded sort of network that we can use. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready to set up a listing. I'm already signed in. So I'm just going to come over here to google.com/business. And it's going to say get on Google. Sometimes it'll make you sign in again. Now I want to search by the business name, Fix Your Basement, Overland Park. That's fine. We'll just hit on I correctly enter the name and address. So, name of the business, Fix Your Basement. By the way, guys, I recommend that you use what could be considered a branded term for not only your website and ranking purposes, but just in general, you know, for things like the networks that we've talked about setting up that all match each other, for your maps listing, it just looks more legitimate. The more you look like a rank and rent business or a pay-per-lead business because you're called Overland Park Basement Remodeling, you know, that stuff just doesn't fly very well anymore. You're not going to get ranked as well as you would with a brand name. So go out and choose something that doesn't exist. It doesn't have to have your city in there, although sometimes partial match domains are fine. So I could have Fix Your Basement Kansas, if I'm just in Overland Park, fixture basement Overland Park. Or you could use some sort of branded, or not branded, but, partial match domain term where, if your term is Overland Park basement remodeling, maybe it's Overland Park basement remodeling pros or something like that. So that's kind of a partial match domain where I've got my main keyword in there, but it's also branded. It's believable that it's a brand, right? So Fixture Basement is not a real company. It's just a fictitious company that I've created essentially to rank and rent or sell leads from. So just keep that in mind. Branded always trumps, just keyword stuffed anything. And so from there, what I want to do is I want to enter in the street address of what I'm going to be buying here. I haven't even bought it yet, and that's okay. We can buy this after we set up our address. So there's my address that I just found in Overland Park from the virtual mailbox place. I am going to enter in all these details. Sorry about that. City, Overland Park, Kansas. Let's go up here. Here we go. And we want the zip code. Got that. Enter the zip code, main business phone. I have now cleared that, so I need to grab that one more time. I'll be right back. All right, I grabbed that phone number. Sorry about that. So I'm going to put that right here. So I'm just going to double check this really quickly. Fixture Basement is the name of the business. US, here's the street address. City, Overland Park, Kansas. Zip code. Main business phone. Now let's see if there's anything about basements. Basement remodeling. It's probably not going to be. It's very specific. There's absolutely nothing that looks like about basements at all. And so I'm probably going to go with the more broad category just to get listed of home remodeling. And they don't even have home remodeling, which is actually pretty surprising. Home contractor. Let's see what they have for home in general. Let's just take a look. Home improvement, home inspector, no. Home insurance, no. Manufactured home, home dealer. Let's look at just contractor, okay? Fence, flooring, heating, mobile. So we're gonna go with just general contractor for now, because oftentimes general contractors will be the ones that will buy these leads. In other words, there's not a lot of basement companies out there that's all they do, but there's a lot of general contractors out there where they do home remodeling projects, and as part of the home remodeling project, they're very well equipped to do basement remodeling projects. So that might be who I want to sell to. And once we get our listing verified, I'm going to go back in and try to find every variation that I can of contractor and anything else I can find. Now look, I'm going to click this, very important. I deliver goods and services to my customers at their location. If you're a service business, you have to click this. I'm going to click that right here. I'm going to hit continue. And then it's going to ask for sort of a radius. My business delivers goods and services to customers within this area. I could put a city, or I could put within X number of miles of my business. I'm going to say, let's say 40 miles. Let's actually say 50 miles. You don't want to get too crazy and say, yeah, I service within, 300 miles of my business. I wouldn't do that. So put something that makes sense. I know from doing past research that the cities that I have are within Johnson County, and I'm going to be, essentially trying to service maybe a 50 square mile radius around that. So I'm going to put 50. I do not also serve customers at my own business address. That's a choice that you have too. Some people do that. They have a real warehouse or they have an office space where people can come in, but then they also go out and they service people at their address. We don't want that. I'm going to hit continue. Let me hit cancel. It says somebody else has verified this listing. It says this following business looks similar to your business. Is one of them yours? And the reason is that look, address hidden for privacy. This is a different address. I don't have any idea why they would associate this address with that address, or this one with the one that I just chose. This one could be, who knows? It looks to me more like Google's algorithm is just saying, hey, it looks similar to this one. Not that somebody's using that exact address. No one's using that name. I know that. None of these match. Keep the information that I entered. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm the authorized person to manage the business. So I'm going to hit agree. I'm going to hit continue. Now it's going to give me an option, or it should give me an option to, hang on one second here. Okay, so I need to have the code mailed to me to be verified, and then I want to have it click verify the code. And it's going to give me the option of an optional contact name. So in this case, I'm going to put my real name, because I've used a virtual address where they need to be able to, when I sign up for this virtual address, it's not going to be under my fictitious name that I'm going to be using across other properties. I'm going to have to use my real name, obviously, to check out with a credit card, and for them to actually receive my mail, and the possibility of me having to fill out the UPS or USPS form that I told you about. I've got to use my real name. I can't use a fictitious name that I'm going to use, across everything else. So, and that's okay. And even if I use my real name across everything else, that's fine too. It's not the end of the world. But I want it to say, attention, my name, fix your basement to my address, send postcard. I'm going to do that, and it'll appear as unverified. So then I'm done. We'll come back at some point, and we will, once I get that code, we will set all of that up and go through the category listing. But we're essentially set up for a service-based business, guys. We have it set up to go within 50 miles. So all I need to do at this point is get my my postcard, enter my code, go through the exact process that I taught you before of optimizing the listing, and then we're off and running with building citations like I taught you. And, something like this is not going to be that hard to rank for. In maps, we're probably not going to have to take a lot of the additional steps that I taught you. The only thing that I would do is I would go back onto the site, and I would add my new phone number in schema. I would add a map once we're verified and we know that our live listing's verified. Same thing with schema. We want to make sure that the live listing's verified with our exact address. And add, the map and the Google Plus badge, or link over to the Google Plus page, and all of your schema stuff here once you're verified, and that's it. And then we're off and running. So we'll come back to this and we'll test it later to see how it's doing. But I just wanted to show you this process. So let me know if you have any questions at all, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to talk about another type of unstructured citation that will can give you really, really amazing results, essentially. And we're talking about press releases. So people overlook the press release. Press releases are really good for a lot of different reasons. Number one, you're going to get a link inside of your press release. You're not going to use keywords. You're not going to use partial match or exact match anchors. You're just going to use a link to your site, possibly a branded link, meaning that it's your business's name, and it links over to your site, right? But, so it has the effect of doing a couple things. It dilutes your overall anchor text. So it will allow you to get more aggressive with your exact match, partial match anchors when you start building those, because we have a diluted anchor text profile. Number two, it gives you links from authoritative sources. which can be very, very important. Number three, what people overlook the most is that you don't just do one press release, guys. You can do one press release. It's going to just dilute your overall anchor text authority. But when we're talking about maps, what we want to be doing are multiple press releases where each press release might link over to a different category page that we have, okay? So that's really important, meaning that, let's say we have 7 categories. Over a period of time, we could do 7 different press releases, and the link inside of our press release, like right here, it's the home page, but there's nothing to say that it couldn't be / heating repair, / air conditioning compressors, or I don't know, whatever the category might be. And so what we're doing is every time we do a new press release, we're not only diluting the overall site, we can dilute the overall page itself, that's a category page, but also boost up the authority of that category page. Which again, remember, we're talking about category pages directly associated with our maps listing. Well, guess what happens? We have, say, 7 categories, 7 press releases, each one going to a different category page. Now we've got massive authority coming from trustworthy sites, all these different news sites that will do 2 things. It's going to directly boost your rankings. Number 2, it's going to dilute the anchor text ratios on that actual category page. So then we can get a little more aggressive with ranking that category page with keywords that we want, which then in a blended algorithm situation ties directly back to our listing. So, again, don't think of press releases as sort of a one-off thing. Think of them as something that maybe you do over a period of time. You don't want to necessarily do 7 press releases all at once. But, you can space them out, one a month or one, every couple weeks, going to a different category page. And that can be very, very powerful in and of itself right there. And then, we can start building second tier links over to our more authoritative press release sites with our category page on it. And the second tier links can be, especially if they're, let's say, no follow links, we can get a little more aggressive with the anchor text that's pointing to the category page. And, it's going to help us rank for those terms. And again, send these signals that, hey, this category page is about divorce. It's about this related term to divorce. And by the way, I want to be ranked for Irvine divorce lawyer, Irvine divorce attorney, over and over and over again. We can get a little more aggressive that way. Again, remember, don't get too aggressive with your tier 2 links because Google's looking down 2 and 3 tiers. So we don't want everything to say, Irvine divorce attorney, or in this case, it might be Cleveland Heights heating repair, Cleveland Heights heating repair, over and over and over again. We don't want to do that. So at tier 1 is our press release with, potentially our website is our first press release, just our main URL. Second one is category 1. Third press release could be our category 3 page, and so on and so on. And then we can build links to those if necessary. So that, that's sort of the beginning of the press release. So I encourage you to, pick up packages of press release. We've got a really good press release service. I'm not telling you this just to go out and, spend a bunch of money on packages of services. I'm telling you this because this stuff works. I'll drop a link into our press release service, very high quality, where most people submit press releases. Oftentimes, it'll go out to 300 sites and only 2 or 3 of those sites get indexed or remain indexed. So we've got a really high success level of those sites getting indexed, remaining indexed. So I'll drop a link to our service. You can use whoever you want. But again, I'm not telling you this just to pick up, a package of 10 press releases. Do it because it's going to directly impact your category pages. You want a press release going out, fairly often because it's going to up the authority level of the category page, driving it up in the rankings, getting you listed on maps. If you're working with a client it can have a further effect of, the more press releases that are out there, eventually one of them gets picked up, and starts being seen by a lot of different people, actual potential customers. I've had this happen where I don't even tell my clients sometimes. I just create press releases, and I don't always do it just for the SEO benefit. I do it because it gets my clients, people calling essentially. My client was actually surprised. One of my family law attorney clients called me saying, hey, I had this guy call me and said that he wants to start sending me all of his referral business because he can't handle it. It was another lawyer. And I said, oh, cool. How did he find you? He said, he found me through a press release. And my client didn't even know I did a press release, and I had done a press release for him. So the more press releases you put out there, it can have secondary effects of, actually getting people to read the release, click through to your client's site, and call your client up and hire them, or, create relationships in the case of my family law attorney client. So it has all these powerful effects, but not really when you just do one of them. You have to do multiple press releases over a period of time, guys. So the other major benefit that we haven't talked about, we've talked about the URL benefit and the fact that it's going to impact the site, is that a lot of these press release sites will allow you to put a full address. Now, not always. Some of them will want just, company name, contact name, email, and phone number only, and that's it. And that's okay. But some of them will actually allow a full address. And so what we're doing is we are creating an unstructured citation. Super important. And to the extent that they don't allow that, they always allow the phone number in there. And they allow the website. So these are signals, again, back to, Google's, to your maps listing, that, this business name, in this case, CHHVAC, which is just a lead gen site I set up. You can see I did a press release back in January on it. It is sending signals over to your maps listing that this business is associated with this phone number, with this website, right? So maybe we don't get the full NAP. We don't get the address, for instance, but we do have the name and phone number, and we have the website that happens to be on the maps listing. So even if we don't get a full address, guys, this is incredibly powerful because it's it can be a full unstructured citation or a partial unstructured citation. But what we're doing is we are doing things that our competition is not doing. They're just going out to your typical structured citation sources like Yelp and all those other ones, and that's it. And now suddenly we have 200 or 300 authoritative sites, news sites, that are mentioning our business name, which is associated with our phone number, which is associated with our website. And you can see how that can start to be incredibly powerful. You've just upped your number of either full or partial citations, dramatically. So there's many reasons to do press releases, as I just mentioned. For our purposes, we want the unstructured citation. We want our categories, each of our categories, to have a separate press release, because it's going to increase the authority of that web, that actual URL, and start to move that up in the rankings, which can then get us, in a blended algorithm type of situation, is going to increase our chances of getting ranked on maps and getting ranked very highly. So that's really it about press releases. Definitely pick up a pack of press releases. Really quickly, one thing I forgot that I will mention also is oftentimes press releases are sort of rich media. So look how this one here, when I ordered it, I was able to put a picture in. So we can oftentimes submit a picture. Well, guess what picture I'm going to submit? I'm going to submit a picture that I've geotagged and that I have my full NAP in there, just like I've taught you. So not only are you going to get a partial NAP down here or a full NAP down here, we're also going to have a geotagged photo that's going to get spread out among 200 or 300 sites. And it also contains our full NAP inside of the photo. So to the extent the individual sites will allow a photo, which many of them do now, that's another spot we're getting, you know, a full NAP inside of our photograph. It's already embedded in our photograph. So I forgot to mention that, but that's another incredibly powerful reason to do a lot of press releases. So that's it on that. I will see you over in the next video, guys. Welcome back. So the next advanced technique we're going to talk about are map embeds. I'm over here at everybody's favorite site, Fiverr. Well, you know, you got to be careful with Fiverr gigs, obviously, but there's not much damage you can do here when you're doing map embeds. So basically what we're doing with this technique is we are taking the map that we embedded into our own website, and we're going to embed it on a bunch of other websites. Any place that can accept an iframe, basically, which in this case, it's pretty much Web 2.0s. You know, if you're going to go out and order them, you can create them yourself. You can use things like FCS Networker, create a huge string of Web 2.0 sites. Those Web 2.0s, if they're brand new, don't have a lot of authority. So you're going to need to build up the authority of the site itself. But then you go out and you can, you know, manually, if you want, take the iframe code and to the extent that Web 2.0 supports that, you can embed a map. And again, it's all geo signaling, right? We're going to have lots and lots of sites with our map embed. I would say the most effective way to do this is to create a geographic targeted network through something like FCS, or I'll talk about the networks that we can build for you, where we can tie in profiles together. It has, you know, a persona, and we can create one where it's going to be all about that city, right? And then, you know, so not only is the persona all about the city itself, when the content gets placed on there, when you actually go out and you place content and it syndicates out, it's going to be all about our location. So in this case, you know, for the divorce example I showed you is in Irvine, California. So maybe I create a big network of Web 2.0s that are, you know, highly linked together. All the profile names match, and all the content that goes on there is about Irvine and Orange County and surrounding areas. And then what I'm going to do, you know, I can use that for multiple purposes. I can use that to direct link if I've got really high quality content to my site, you know, across different places of my site. And I can also do things like embed videos if I'm trying to rank a video on it, and I can embed my maps on there. So again, we're sending, you know, highly relevant geo specific signals, not only by just putting a map, you know, which you can do. You can just go out to kind of these, you know, and order them. They're going to get placed on sort of generic Web 2.0s. That's fine. Again, it's not really going to hurt you, but it definitely can help. But I would say take it a step further and do things like create your own network through FCS Networker that's geographically specific. Then embed your maps. Embed that code on as many sources as possible. Or buy one of the networks from us, and when you start to add content to one source, it's going to take the RSS feed from that content, and it's going to syndicate it out across all other sources. It's going to essentially place that same article over and over again on all these different authoritative Web 2.0s that are now they're now linked together from a profile and thematic perspective. So, you know, and we talked about social data hubs, all that stuff. That's all a part of the networks that we create. So it's all the stuff that Google loves, and now we're embedding our Google map on all the stuff that Google says that it loves, that it's, you know, it's not only their own sites, it's their social data hub partners. So that's my recommended way of actually doing this. If you want to be, you don't want to go that route and you want to take an easier route, you can go out to this guy on Fiverr, and he'll embed your map. And, you know, guys, this kind of stuff can give you an advantage. You know, nobody else is out there embedding maps. Or I would say very, very few people are. So do things like this, because that map is going, you know, it's going to tell your maps listing that it's important. This map has been embedded, you know, 100 different times on all these different sites. So that kind of stuff can really help you to increase your authority. Let me know if you have any questions on this technique. We'll talk soon. Hey guys, welcome back. I want to talk about one of my favorite advanced techniques, and that's submitting your photo or photos to photo sharing sites. This is a little known technique. People just don't really think about it, but if you put it to work for you, it can really do a lot of good for your listing. So remember, we're going to start with a photo that we've used that's on our maps listing that's been geotagged by Picasa. We've added all of our NAP information in it. So immediately when we submit it, we're submitting a photo that is going to be shared across all sorts of different sites that has an unstructured citation inside of the photo. It's geotagged. It directly matches everything in our listing. And it's going to go across all these sites. It's not really just photo sharing sites. It's photo sharing sites plus social sites. I would view photo sharing sites as like Instagram, Pinterest, Flickr, Photo Bucket, stuff like that, which I think in this gig here, I'm showing you a Fiverr gig. I think he does most of those. I don't think he does all of them. But a lot of times, it counts kind of as a social share. So it's embedding the photo along with a social share on Google Plus and Facebook. And, that kind of stuff starts to matter. We've got to get some social signals too. And we're kind of doing both at the same time here. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll just run you through kind of the report that he sent me when he was done with this. But I sent him the photo that was embedded with my data. And look, it's on Pinterest, Google Plus, Flickr, archive.org, PhotoBucket. I think it's Scribed. I'm not sure. I think that's how you pronounce it. Rebel Mouse, Storify, all these different sites. He's saying high PR. PR really we don't measure PR anymore, but they are truly high PR sites. They're high authoritative sites. So I'll just show you a couple of these really quickly. Like here's Google Plus. If I highlight that link, come over here, and we see it's right there shared on somebody else's Google Plus page, which is, important. The other thing is it gives us a link back to our site, further diluting our anchor text. So, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's kind of like a co-occurrence, but it could be seen as that. I don't know if Google sees it as that or not. My point is that the data that resides within this photo is right next to, context, basically, stuff that's about family law, divorce, Orange County, all that. That's right next to my link, all of which appear on my maps listing. So this can definitely have an impact. I would definitely, do these kinds of things. So, you can go down the list basically, but these are high authoritative sites. Like here's his Facebook or somebody's Facebook. On Fiverr, you never know. But it's been shared on Facebook. He's going to give you a nice little report that will directly, take you to the actual listing itself. And, again, all my data is right here. It's directly, in context next to my link. This kind of stuff makes a lot of sense, guys. And not a lot of people do it. So take the time to do it. Don't overdo it. Don't submit, each of your photos 40 times. It's not necessary. And there just aren't that many people who will do these gigs out here, to where you're going to be able to find them, to where you're going to get the diversity that you would need. They would show up on the same sites over and over again, unless this guy has just a massive number of sites, which I doubt. So this is the guy that I've ordered from. He did a good job. He was a little late, but he did have a nice, an explanation. He kept in contact with me. So, definitely check that out on Fiverr. That's something I would do, that's something you could do right away as a matter of course, or you can do it as an advanced technique if you're having trouble, getting ranked. This is going to help out tremendously. And by the way, remember, the link that we provide this guy doesn't have to be our homepage link, although it could be. Could be a link into our category page. So maybe it's one of our category photos, and the link is directly to our category page. Again, highly relevant and a good signal that all of this stuff matches across these platforms. So definitely check that out. Great little technique. Hopefully it helps you as well. Take care. All right, guys, congratulations. You've made it almost all the way to the end here. We're going to talk about some common problems that I see with listings and ways to, fix those problems. Let's start with citation cleanup. It's very, very common for you to start working with businesses who have, had citations that are all over the frickin' place, in terms of the business name is spelled incorrectly. The business name is, very close to the business name, but not quite the business name on 30 different sites, and on 30 more sites, it's the actual business name. The addresses don't match up correctly. There's all sorts of problems that can happen when it comes to citations over a period of time. Remember that Google is really kind of a data scraper. I mean, there's no other way of saying it. They oftentimes will create maps listings based off of the three major data aggregator sites I showed you in an earlier video, or they'll get their listings from other sites that were created from those data aggregators, and oftentimes they end up being wrong. And then oftentimes those data aggregators are slightly off, and those populate 100 different sites out there. So before we ever have a chance to go out and build citations, there's all these references to our business that are just incorrect. And guys, that can really screw you up big time. Does it always? No. There are times when the solution really is, if you have a limited number of citations, the solution is just to go out and build new citations that have the correct information on it. And eventually you have so many more so many additional citations beyond, say, the 30 that exist out there now, that Google is going to use that as the cue, basically, rather than the 30 that previously existed, especially when you get into the mix, or you put into the mix adding to those data aggregators, putting the correct address in the data aggregators. They're going to read it from that. So sometimes you can really get away with it by doing an analysis. And the way you do an analysis is you've got to go out and you've got to search for citation instances by searching for the business name. I would search for it a couple ways. The business name, and then try to make a note of what citations exist. Check by phone number and see what citations exist. Put another column for that. Check by the address, see what citations exist. Put another column for that. And then basically, and you can outsource this, guys. You could have somebody, a VA that you're paying $4 an hour to, and just give them clear instructions to go out and check, every instance of the business name that appears, and then make a list on a spreadsheet of every site that it appears on and exactly how it appears. Now, again, you could get some incorrect information because oftentimes the data entry people, the data entry VAs, are not that careful. But if you have clear instructions to them, you're more likely to get a better result. Have them do it again with the phone number. What sites appear under the phone number? What sites appear under just the address? And then next to that, how does it appear? here's the exact citation, the name, address, and phone number. And what you're going to want to look for is the number of instances where they don't match. And if it's minor, if it's just a handful of sites, I would probably start by going out, go over to Marketer's Center and just order a brand new citation package, and make sure that you get the big citation package where it goes out to the 3 major data aggregators and it adds your correct information. That's going to have the effect of really sending the proper signal over to Google of what's correct. And then it's also going to build additional citations. Then from there, you'd go out and build more and more correct citations. And those are just going to trump the bad ones that are out there. Okay. There are times, and it's happened quite a bit, where people have been around a long time. They've been in business. You start working with somebody. They've been in business for years, and Google has scraped all this data, and all these other websites have scraped data that's just incorrect. And there's, 4 and 5 variations out there. And what that does is it really messes up your chances of getting on maps, because Google can't get a clean reading of, what this name, address, and phone number are really all about. It kind of matches, but is this really the right business? Remember, Google it's not a bunch of human beings sitting there analyzing everything. It's a crawler, it's a robot that's going out, and if it doesn't match, it doesn't match, right? That's why it's so important to have exact match everything on your citations. Because if it's off just even by, the word avenue spelled out versus AVE versus AVE with a period afterwards, again, you're dealing with a robot that's going out and crawling the web. And to that robot, as smart as they may have programmed it to be, it doesn't catch everything. And it's going to view the inconsistencies in that and not give you credit for it. It's going to not understand the association between that. And so I wouldn't want to take that chance. So when you get to the point where you've got, a lot of citations out there, and by a lot, I would say probably 50 or more, maybe 100 or more, where they just are not correct. They're, your client's address and it's not matching at all. In that case, you're going to want to take the step of doing cleanup. The service that I highly recommend is the Hoth Local. It's they have a full citation cleanup service. It's not cheap, guys. It's, I think, $349, something like that. But they're very persistent. One time, $349. They're going to go out and fix 70 to 90% of citations. They fix your data aggregator listings. Basically, like I said, if you have a limited number, you could go just add to the citations, through Marketer Center, and it'll update the data aggregator stuff, and then you're building new citations. That's fine. When you're getting to the point where there's lots of stuff, spend the money one time, go get it cleaned up, charge your client if you have to charge your client, build it into the cost. It's a cost of doing business, because your client is not going to get listed very easily or ranked very easily on maps without taking this step when you've got a lot of inconsistent citations. So spend the $349. They're going to go out there and they're going to just, essentially contact by hand all of these directories and get them to change them. They're not going to change every single one, but they have a 70 to 90% success rate depending on the business listing. And they're going to fix your data aggregator listings, as well. So you get that included. So I would definitely take that step. Go, I'll drop a link to the Hoth. That's the service I've used over and over again. Very, very good for doing citation cleanup. So let's talk about some other inconsistencies that can occur that can really kind of tank your ability to get ranked. So we talked about citations, not matching, doing an audit and cleanup. The next thing where I see people hitting a big snag is they get their citation report back, and it takes a while, guys, for those citations to get indexed, to get counted. If it's not indexed, it's really not being counted. So we want to, in those cases, take the report and run them through an indexer service, okay? There's lots of different indexer services out there. You don't need to go crazy. You just run it through once, and it's going to help that citation get picked up by Google that much quicker. So you're definitely going to want to do something like that. Some people would argue, I just want to get them discovered naturally over time. It's a little different than like with links. I agree. When you're building links, you don't necessarily want to tell Google every time you built a new link by running it through an indexer service. With citations, not a big deal. We want our citations indexed and out there as quickly as we can get them there. So, the next kind of consideration that we need to talk about is what I would call pin placement issues. So let me give you an example. I'm going to go over to a site called Google Map Maker, and I typed in Red Hill Family Law. And just to give you a quick background, when I first listed Red Hill Family Law, I did everything correctly. I put it at 38 Corporate Park, and I built citations. The site was already ranked on page 1 and 2, and it just wasn't showing up on maps. I mean, this went on for like 2 months or something, and I was like, what in the hell is going on? It's not showing up on maps. So suddenly I go over to I think I first just went to Google Maps, and then I went to Map Maker, and I realized that the pin was not dropped in the right spot. It was actually across town. Let me see if I can zoom out. So even though my address was correct, 38 Corporate Park, which is here where it's at now, my pin appeared across town over here somewhere. It was close, but it was not 38 Corporate Park. And so Google gets screwed up. Google houses data across different data centers. So the address may have been in one data center, the name may be in another data center, the reviews are in another one, the pin is in another one, and somehow they don't sync up. And that's very common. So just realize that. And if you're doing everything that we've talked about in this course and you're not seeing any kind of progress, I would definitely check the pin. I had this happen recently with a client who is in New Jersey, and we couldn't even get listed because what happened was I would go to submit the listing, to basically have it send out the postcard. And when I entered in the address, it would say it doesn't recognize the address, even though she knew the address was absolutely 100% correct. Here was the frustrating part. It would say, we can't find this address, yet it would say we're sending out a postcard. I don't know where it thought it was sending it to, but it gave us the illusion that it was sending out the postcard. So in dealing with Google, I ended up on the phone with a Google representative, and what we found out was the pin was wrong, and it wasn't wrong just by, like this one was wrong by maybe a mile or two. It was wrong by like several states, guys. It was in Ohio or something like that, and we're sitting in New Jersey. So even though the address was correct, it wasn't even sending the postcard out to the right spot. So two things, if you're not getting a postcard, check the pin to make sure it's correct. You might have to get on the phone with a Google representative, which is what I did. It took me an hour, and he walked me through all the steps. We literally had to go find the pin and pick the pin up and drag it across 3 states to put it in the right spot. Giant hassle, but eventually it worked fine, and then we were able to send the postcard where we needed to, and it worked just fine. So there's postcard issues where it'll tell you it's sending a postcard. If you don't ever get the postcard, check the pin, get on the line with Google, make sure your pin is dragged to the right spot, because your address is not matching the pin potentially. And then after you already get the postcard and you've done all the steps, you've done citations, you know that you should be ranking, but you're not. And when I say ranking, don't just rely on the fact that maybe you're not on the 3-pack yet. Maybe you're somewhere further down. But you go through all the listings and you don't even show up. And that could be a pin issue big time. So make sure you check out those sorts of issues for pin placement. The final thing I want to talk about are duplicate listings. It's very common. It's less common nowadays with newer listings because Google's getting a little bit better about this. But it used to be extremely common where there were multiple listings. You'd have clients that didn't know what they were doing, and they would accidentally create 3 and 4 listings that were verified and exist on Google. Or you'd have Google, like I said, being a giant data scraper, basically scraping all these other sites and scraping these data aggregators and creating its own listing for something totally different. I'll give you an example. So I tell you to use your real world name on business, on your maps listing, but maybe your LLC or your corporate name is different. Well, Google goes out and it's scraping data, so maybe it's created one for your corporate name and not for your real world name. And then you go out and you try to create one for your real world name, and now boom, you've got 2 listings out there that are competing with each other. And again, remember the whole data center concept. Things are housed in different data centers. So this can really confuse the hell out of Google. You've got 2 addresses that match. And I've seen this happen, guys, over and over again, where it'll take, it'll do things like maybe you've got a bunch of reviews to one of your listings, or maybe you start to work with a business who had reviews to this listing that was scraped, and now you're creating what you think is a proper listing, and half the reviews disappear and they get moved over to the new listing, or you get new reviews to your new listing and they disappear at some point and they end up being tied to your old listing. So we've got to do things to minimize that impact. And the way that we do it is it's nearly impossible. I will tell you that with certainty, because, it's one of those ask me how I know things, because I've done it so many times where I've dealt with duplicate listings, where it's like the undead. They just don't disappear. They keep coming back to life. So you can go into your dashboard, or the client's dashboard and try to delete the listing. Guess what? It's not deleted, guys. You can go to Google Map Maker and you can find it on Google Map Maker, and you can, request an edit. Like if I go here to Red Hill Family Law, and let's say that this was wrong somehow, I could go to edit and I could edit this place. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be requesting an edit, and there's people that are that will go out and they'll look at it, and I could say, hey, please delete this duplicate listing. That's not to say that they're going to do it, and that's not to say that Google is going to get rid of it out of its data centers. Every time I've checked, they still seem to be there. So what we need to do is get into that listing and minimize it. And the way that I've done this in the past is by doing things like putting all my main categories on the listing that I want to appear, and going into the one that I don't want to appear and changing it to a totally different category, and then sending the the URL that I put in that listing. I might change it to some inner page URL. Maybe it's like an About Us page or something like that. And so what I'm trying to do is minimize the impact. I might even change the address slightly if I can get away with it. Like if I've got a suite number that's there, maybe I try to get rid of the suite number, or I change it a little bit so that the citations don't match. I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't show up. I know that I can't get rid of it, but I'm trying to make it not show up. I want my listing to show up that I know is correct, so that everything, all my reviews and everything get associated with my main website. So I hope that makes sense. So that's the main way you would do it. Minimize the listing. Change the category to something super, generic. I wouldn't totally change the category. Like if you're a law firm and you change it to plumbing company, that's just kind of, doesn't make sense. But like in my case, we've got, other categories like paralegal services, or there was lawyer, or there was divorce services or something like that. So maybe I don't use that one category on my main listing, but I use the other 5. And on my secondary listing that I'm trying to minimize, I use like divorce services or something. And I go into the listing and I change it up a little bit. I get rid of the description entirely. I'm trying to downplay everything. I get rid of all the photos that might be in there. So I'm trying to under optimize that listing, not optimize that listing, if that makes sense. I'm going to pull away all the prior optimization. I'm going to try to maybe change the address slightly so it doesn't match citations out there. That sort of stuff. So hopefully that all makes sense. Those are the common problems that I see. Feel free to run past me other problems that you might have. I see lots and lots of different issues, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you and talk about that. I do some private coaching where we'll spend an hour on the phone together, and I will research your listing. I'll look at duplicate listings, and I will give you my best advice on how to fix all that stuff. I'll give you a report on things that I see that are wrong, and you'll be able to go out and correct those things. I'm not going to get into your listing myself. I'm going to tell you what to do. So we'll spend some time on the phone together, getting to know each other, getting to know your problem, what issues you're facing. I'm going to document that, research it, prepare a report, and action steps of things that can correct that. So that's a service that I offer, and I will at some point drop a link to that service if you're in need of that. And also just private coaching, like if you just want to bypass all this stuff and don't feel like going through all these tutorials, you can I'll have a link to private coaching. You can bypass that, and I'll try to teach you all of this stuff in an hour or so. So that's it on common problems that we experience. I will see you over in the next video. All right, guys, this is the last video. Congratulations, you've made it all the way through this course. I know it's been, it's fairly long, it's very involved, but there's a lot to maps, a lot of things that people don't consider. I want to talk about 2 final concepts here, both of which kind of relate to each other. One is the click-through rate of your maps listing, basically user experience, user engagement, getting people to pick up the phone and actually call, and how we influence that, and then things that we can do to get you hired, keep you hired by leveraging the results that we have. So let's talk about click-through rate and user engagement, and specifically as it pertains to star ratings. So people will not make decisions, period, anymore without looking at reviews. I mean, it's that simple. That's the world that we live in. We've gone to a world where people go out to eat, and before they take a bite of their food, they whip out their cameras and they take a picture of their food and they post it, on Facebook, and they post it on Yelp, and they write reviews about everything. So if you don't think reviews are important, think how important it is just from a restaurant concept. And I've told you before, I've talked to my clients to think of themselves as restaurants. If people are not willing to go out to eat and spend $20 on a meal before they've read at least one series of reviews, maybe more, do you think that they're going to spend $5 grand or $7 grand on a lawyer or whatever service they're offering? We talked about setting up a basement remodeling service listing. That's 20 or 30 grand. You better believe that people are going to read reviews on that stuff. You've got to at some point get reviews. So I'm going to show you something just to kind of illustrate that point really quickly. This is the keyword term Orange County divorce attorney, the most probably trafficked term you can have. And we went through the example of how these listings match the organic listings. It was that blended algorithm where it was, listing for listing matched the order of the organic listings. But with that said, let's look at these really a little more closely. the person in the number 1 position has 14 5-star reviews. The person in the number 2 position has 8 4.3-star reviews. And then this person down here crushes everybody, 33 5-star reviews. Now, again, getting a divorce is going to be a big decision, and people are likely to look at more than one website, all those different things. But there are people out there that will make a decision based on the number of reviews that you have, and may just immediately go to the Maggio law firm because they've got 33 reviews over 14, even though they're, all 5-star reviews. The immediate psychological sort of implication of this is that people will look past this and go, this guy must be better than this guy. He's got 33 reviews. That means he's done more business. They're going to draw the conclusion he's more experienced. He's been around longer. All these different things that may not be true, but we don't care. It's psychological. People are going to make a decision. And, if they're on a mobile phone, oftentimes they're just going to hit the click to call button, and Maggio's now the choice, right? So you have to be very mindful of that when you are dealing with your clients. You want to talk to them about a review process. You want to make sure that you give them a review process. I deal with clients all the time they're not necessarily lazy, they're just freaking busy. And they mean to get to it. They mean to put in place a standardized review process where every time a happy client leaves, they give them instructions on how to leave a review. But they never get around to it. So I'm going to tell you right now, work with your client to make sure that that is top of mind for them, that they're going to get those handled. And I would take it one step further, where you create a service offering around getting reviews, where you actually take the burden away from your client. They send you an email list of their, clients. And I would tell them, make sure that you note which ones were happy, which ones you may have had problems with, because I'm not going to reach out to the ones where there's potential problems, because I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't want somebody coming back giving me a 3-star review. And I'm actually going to control that process, but I'm going to do it as a service. I'm going to get paid monthly to do that. I'm going to go out and I'm going to control the rate of, the rate at which reviews come in, which, by the way, matters on Google. Don't overdo it. Don't, I know this is a little bit of an aside, but, don't have 14 reviews coming in 1 week. Think about the type of business that you are dealing with. Would a lawyer have 14 reviews come in a week? No. You are going to trip a spam filter in Google My Business, and none of those reviews will show up. So, nice and slow on a lot of businesses, okay? For lawyers, it might be one a week or just a couple a month. For a restaurant, restaurants are frequented all the time, where there's new people going into a restaurant all the time. So it might be appropriate to have 5 or 10 new reviews a week. I still wouldn't push it too far. I've seen reviews that just go into kind of ghost land, where it's almost like the equivalent of Craigslist ghosting. It just your ad never appears, your review never appears, because you've somehow tripped a spam filter and it never shows up. So you've taken the time to go out, reach out to that client, and and it's, by the way, not easy to get a review on Google. It's not easy on the client. They've got to sign up for a Gmail account first, and you have to walk them through instructions on how to do that. And obviously, it doesn't seem hard to you or I, but for somebody who doesn't deal in this world that we deal in, it can be a pain saying, hey, first step here, you got to go sign up for Gmail, and then you've got to, head on over to this page and then find the review button, then leave the review and make sure you talk about this and all that. It's a lot on some people. So you want to make sure that review shows up. So offer it as a service to your clients and charge them for it. You could charge several $100 a month. This is a very large pain point I've learned for a lot of clients who don't have the time to deal with this stuff. So you do it as a service for them. They give you a list each month, and you just, follow up with each person. Maybe you guys have created some incentive for them to leave a review where they get a gift card or something like that. I'll leave that up to you. But that kind of stuff can certainly give an incentive for somebody to want to go leave a review. And you're going to give them instructions on what to do and the types of things that, you're not going to coach them on here's exactly what to say, but you certainly can give them some pointers on, this is what really would be helpful for our, future clients that are looking for us. Tell us, kind of what we did, the result that you got, and would you recommend us to a friend, that sort of thing. Stuff that's going to be helpful basically for people in the future to decide to hire our company or not hire our company. So you can see that although, you can have all the traffic in the world for all these different keywords and be the top ranked person, and not to say that, Farzad's not doing very well. 14 5-star reviews is not shabby at all. That's really good. Definitely better than 8 4.3 star reviews. This person, I can tell you right now, is probably getting called the least because they are surrounded by 2 people with 5-star reviews. And I can tell you the Maggio firm is getting called the most. So I don't care that the Maggio firm is third in terms of placement in organic listings in relation to the maps, and they're actually in 10th place. They are getting called the most based on the fact that they have a 5-star rating, 33 reviews. People oftentimes will just bypass the website entirely. They never even go there, and they will directly call you from your maps listing, guys. So that's how important it is for reviews, and that's how you can, present this to your client, that they need to think of themselves just like restaurants, and if somebody's not going to make a $20 decision without a review, why in the world would they make a multi-$1,000 decision to hire or not hire somebody? And then explain to them that oftentimes people search for mobile phones about 60% of the time. Mobile searches occur. And when they see you in not only in the 3-pack, but with the most reviews, they don't even go to your website half the time. They just pick up the phone or they on their smartphone hit click to call, and that they're done. That's it. They've connected with you, and oftentimes you're going to get hired based on that. Very important concept. So, that's kind of the click-through rate user experience speech, but it really directly ties into your ability to get hired, because the more that you do this for other clients, you can use it as storytelling examples where people can put themselves in the place of in the shoes of your other clients and basically see themselves there going, oh, that makes sense. And you sound like you know what the hell you're doing versus, whoever else has called them up who just happens to do SEO. Hey, I can get you ranked. They're tired of hearing that speech. They want you to be a marketing partner to them. And obviously we've got a full module on that kind of stuff about how to get bigger paydays by not being seen as an SEO, by being seen as a marketing partner in our local profit breakthrough group. This is one of the primary ways you can do it from the initial conversation you have with that person. You can tell stories about the other people you've worked with and point them point them in that direction and give them information about it. Let me just click this video off real quick. Sorry, it's producing here. Point them in the direction of case studies where they can go look for themselves and tell them why it's so important to have reviews. Oh, and let them know, by the way, most clients I work with find that they have good intentions to go get reviews, and then they find they don't have time. And so we also offer a service where we can go get that done for you. And it's, X amount of dollars per month, and it's really worth it because this is what's going to get you hired. So you see, I've presented myself very differently than most SEOs who are talking to a potential client and just talking about rankings. Rankings are one thing, guys. Traffic is one thing, but conversions is where it's at. Okay. And this is the ultimate conversion factor right here are reviews. So enough about that. Let's talk for a minute about, getting hired, staying hired. One other technique I like to use to stay hired, and this is sometimes very tough to sell. I'll be the first to admit it, but I have successfully sold clients on this concept. they want to track everything. A lot of times clients have been burned in the past. They don't know where their marketing dollars are going. They have no idea if they're working for them, not working. They just know they're throwing a pile of money at marketing, and they have no idea if it's producing results. So again, go in with the marketing partner mentality and be seen as different, where you tell them, we're much more interested in tracking everything. We're more interested in where your conversions are coming from. And the way that we do that is with tracking phone numbers. So what I'm about to tell you is going to go against the grain for, traditional maps wisdom, where you want all your stuff to match, right? But we're going to do it in a way where it does match. So here's how it works. Client comes to you and they're interested, and they have their own website with their own main phone number. And that's all well and good. What I'm going to talk to them about is, let's create a separate website. Let's create a plan where we're going to rank your main website. But we're going to rank a secondary website that's going to be tied to your maps listing. And all of that is going to have a tracking number on it. Your maps listing is going to have a tracking number on it. Your secondary website is going to have a tracking number on it that matches your maps listing, and all your citations match your maps listing. Then we're going to do video marketing, which has a different tracking number on it that doesn't match any of that because we don't care. But what it's going to do is we're going to be able to, clearly track where your phone calls are coming from. We'll be able to say with certainty that, your phone calls from your main website with this phone number you've had for years, we've ranked that website, and you can see that your call volume's up and it's coming in through your main phone number. And then we'll be able to say, hey, look, we've got you ranked on maps. We've got this other website ranked. We've got videos ranked. We've got citation sources ranked. And look at all the phone calls that are coming through the tracking number. And with the tracking number, again, you can use analytic call tracking, which is a really sophisticated, very cool product from Joe Troyer. And you can run reports, and you can, show them exactly when the calls are coming in, who they came from, all that stuff. So you can point to somebody with certainty and say, look, here's all the phone calls that came in from maps and your citation sources and your secondary website this month. And what it does is it creates a situation where, before they hired you, they were used to just getting phone calls through their main phone number without any ability to track it. After they hire you, now they can see your value. They understand your value. They're like, holy cow, this person's producing a lot of phone calls, right? And it also kind of marries them to you in a little bit of a sneaky way, but if they go and they decide they want to get rid of you, you own the phone numbers, you own all this stuff, and you've created all these assets with your tracking number on it, and then they're kind of screwed, right? So they kind of want to stick with you. I know that's a little bit sneaky, and that's not our main motivation, but that's kind of a secondary motivating factor in the back of their mind that, God, if I get rid of this person, I'm getting all these phone calls through tracking number they own. What happens then? I'll tell you what happens then. I would shut down that tracking number, or I would reroute it to their competition is what I would do. And some people would say, hey, that's playing dirty pool. But if they're going to fire you, that's business, right? So my point is that you're less likely to get fired, and you're more likely to not only stay hired, but for them to see you as having and providing more value to them and want to add additional services and pay you more over time, because they can track everything, because you've gone to the trouble of putting a tracking number on their maps listing and on their secondary website that matches their maps listing. Obviously, we're not going to put their primary website on the maps listing because that phone number won't match. And then their citation sources match all of that. So we're able to get them ranked on maps. We're able to get a second website ranked. So now they've got 2 websites ranked. Then I'll talk to them about videos and things like that, where we're going to go out and get those ranked as well. And inside of the video, we're going to have a different tracking number, because we're not really concerned with, videos acting as a citation source that's going to throw off our citation. We're just going to have a tracking number in there. So we'll be able to say, hey, when somebody calls, From a video, we'll be able to tell you based on reports that we run that this came in from a video. More value, right? They're seeing more value come from you. They're going to want to have you do more and more and more stuff. You're then out of the position of being seen as what really is a commodity. SEOs are 100% interchangeable in your client's mind. SEOs are people who just get stuff ranked. Marketing partners are people who put in place a plan of action that's comprehensive, that doesn't just involve SEO. It involves conversions, and it involves showing them where their money's being spent, that they're getting a return on investment. Marketing partners make a lot more money, I can tell you, from firsthand knowledge than people who are SEOs. When I used to do SEO years ago, and that's the only thing that I did and the way I position myself, I might get $500 or $750 a month for ranking a site. When I position myself right out of the gate as a marketing partner by talking about things like conversions and click-through rates and reviews and the psychology behind it and how we're going to help you do it, and we're going to track everything, guess who started making a hell of a lot more money? I went from $500 to $750 a month to $2,000 dollars and up a month, and a lot of my clients will add more and more services. I have clients over time, because they can now see the results and measure those results. I have no problem taking them from $2,000 a month to $4,000 a month. So that's a very important concept right there. The other thing, as far as tracking numbers are concerned, is you can set up email campaigns for them where either on their site or on a secondary website or both, it doesn't really matter. You have some sort of lead magnet where there's a video series or there's a book or something somebody can opt in for. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to opt in for it, and all the follow-up sequence emails are going to have a totally separate tracking number. So then we can go to our client and say, this month you got 15 calls from Maps, and you got 6 additional phone calls from people who wouldn't have otherwise taken action, but they opted in for your book. And we sent out follow-up emails with a totally different tracking number, and look here at this tracking number. This month we got 6 additional phone calls. And that's important because those people would have bounced off the site otherwise had they not registered for that book. And look at the video tracking number. We got another 6 phone calls from that. You position yourself in such a way that you're creating such massive value and such a return on investment that they can actually measure at that point, that this is huge, guys. I would definitely from the get-go try to talk my client into that. It's not going to take anything away from their site. In fact, you're going to work on ranking their site. You're just going to work on also ranking an additional site that will just so happen to be tied to the Maps listing. And if look, you may have discussions with your client where they say, well, what happens to the tracking number? I want to make sure I own that. Well, just reassure them, in your contract or whatever, you're going to transfer all that stuff over to them at some point, if they do part ways with you. Or maybe you set a time limit. You say, because we're doing all these other things, we're happy to transfer all these assets over to you. But I'm not going to do that until we've have a year-long contract. Or I've got buyout provisions in some of my contracts where I'm creating all these additional assets that have all this value, and I can, I've done this in the past where I make my client, if they decide they want to bail out, they have to buy that from me. They've got to buy this separate website and access to the tracking numbers and all that stuff. And I get them on the hook for at least a year of SEO. But the reality is most people don't take me up on that. Most people stick around with me. I've got clients that have been around, 4 and 5 years based on the things I'm telling you right now. So this is the way to get hired and stay hired, okay? Enough about all of that, and I want to thank you very, very much for sticking with me throughout this, what seems like a very long course, but a lot of this is very important information. I want you to go out there and absolutely just crush it, guys. Your competition is not doing this stuff. So put this stuff into action, make it work for you, and I appreciate you sticking in there with me. Take care.